Big hi to everybody. Big thanks to Kelly and Neil and everyone else who's helped put this thing together. I think astrobiology and all its attendant fields, well, is going to save the world. So I think this initiative is going to be very important in the years to come. Okay, coincidence numbers. My interest is consciousness and what it's doing in the mix. How did it get here? What's its relationship with the universe right now? And what's its relationship with the universe's beginnings? And what I think is, what I'm interested in is this idea of coincidence. We kind of use coincidence slightly incorrectly, at least when it comes to the anthropic principle, the weak anthropic principle. People talk about the coinciding of all the universe's cosmological constants, all the parameters that govern the universe, to be in the tight ranges necessary for life. They think of that as a coincidence. Well, really, it's contingency. It's not really coincidence because, to my mind, coincidence requires pre-preparation. It requires some kind of shared information, historic shared information, before the new coinciding of events can have meaning. For me, coincidence is a property. It's a property, and it's going to be a property of a different value in different universes, because it's a property related to entropy, obviously, but also to gravity and to space in general. So coincidence is significant to us, to our universe. How is it significant? Well, it's significant because things occur which are not necessarily predictable in the antecedents to the event that happens. For example, the nucleosynthesis in stars. Two alpha particles come together. They come together for about 10 to the minus 5 seconds, very brief period of time. In that tiny brief period of time, a third alpha particle has to come and hit it and create the resonant structure which falls down to carbon. And without that coincidence, nucleosynthesis would not be occurring. So and this coincidence needs to occur in a certain volume and a certain of space, and obviously a certain mass too. I think so. Automatically, we're taken from the subatomic in the subatomic realm. We can see that coincidence is, crucial to subsequent events. It's especially true of things like the biology that we have on Earth. The hydrogen bond, for example, is perhaps a coincidental result of the distortions of the subatomic bonds formed by a tiny molecule of hydrogen with 1 electron and oxygen, with 6. The distortions create electrostatic, cloud, as it were, which is charged, a charged electrostatic cloud or differentials cloud. But it isn't just the different charges on the different molecules, it's the angles which have been created. It's so important. The hydrogen molecule is an angle of about, is it 107, something like that, 107 degrees? And it's this angle which allows it to dissolve, not only to be a liquid, but to dissolve an enormous range of molecules, three-dimensional molecules. If, for example, they'd been in a straight line, we'd ended up probably with a crystal or something along those lines. So this is an accidental result of the subatomic forces within the nucleus and surrounding it. Also, this hydrogen bonding, of course, as we all know, is absolutely crucial in the creation of DNA, and this time it's using phosphorus, which is a valence of 3, but nonetheless can still accommodate using a mixture of ionic and covalent bonds for oxygen atoms. And it's this property which enables DNA to be created, literally, because the phosphate connects with the sugar, and the sugar connects with the amino acid, and the amino acids are joined together by hydrogen bonding, which enables the DNA to split easily and also to recombine. Without hydrogen bonding, there'd be nothing. There would be no life. all the other consequence, of course, just I want to add about the phosphate molecule, is that because of the way it's arranged in a linear way with a sugar molecule, it leaves one oxygen off, sticking out with a negatively charged oxygen, which enables it to be dissolved in water and to be absolutely stable in solution. The other interesting thing about hydrogen bonding is that they're relatively weak. Heat disrupts it. So when we talk about the Goldilocks zone for planets, there's a little bit more to it. It can't be, the heat, too much heat, like I think about 70 degrees, and the DNA just splits apart. So the idea that DNA is created in very hot springs, for example, is, I don't know, controversial. Anyway, this is subatomic realm, because coincidence permeates the universe. It doesn't just occur at the very beginning. It doesn't just allow a set of parameters to come together and then it's over. Coincidence is everywhere. It's with us all the time, and of course this is especially true at the human narrative level. I'd like to say, getting into quantum mechanics here, coincidence of course is what creates the measurement, because the superposition of the individual probabilities the separate components of the superposition do not do not give you the probability of the occurrence. It's the coincidence with the observer that provides the measurement. I'm going to give you two stories, quick stories. Once, when my father died, this is in the 1970s, I decided to lose myself in the world, and I went down to South America where I couldn't speak the language. I knew nobody. I was just simply lost, sort of hiking. I hiked in Patagonia. Then I worked my way north in Chile, and even though this is just after Allende had been deposed and Pinochet was in charge, and everyone said, whatever you do, don't hitchhike. It's just, they'll throw you in jail. Anyway, I didn't have much choice, and I did hitchhike, and a geologist picked me up and dropped me off at a little university town north of Santiago called La Serena. It's on the coast. And I was crossing a street in this town looking for a barber whom I was told would change money. And I heard my name called. I turned around to see a Chilean lawyer whom I'd met perhaps twice, very briefly, in the London office where I'd worked the year before. He recognized me. He'd been born in the area. Tirana was his town. He took me to lunch with his parents. I picnicked on the beach with his brother and his family. Later on, he offered me a job in Santiago, which in fact I didn't take. But anyway, this kind of coincidence, utterly, there's no way you could calculate the likelihood of such a coincidence, and yet these are absolutely crucial to the way our lives develop. The sort of narrative space of humankind must include these coincidences, yet it has no way of estimating their worth. Or when they're likely to occur, their frequency. And yet this is what makes our consciousness. This is what develops our minds, our personalities, our activities in life. Coincidences. Here's another one. I knew someone in Seville called Peter. Peter struck up a very strong friendship with a Japanese student called Nobu, who'd been living in Seville, very sort of straitened circumstances, for about 2 years, and then went back to Japan to collect his fiancée and bring her back to Spain. In the meanwhile, his fiancée had bought a Japanese guidebook on Spain, this one, and there are a couple of pages on Seville, these pages. And this photograph here in Seville is of the Giralda. This guy here is Peter, and Nobu told me he was just absolutely, completely floored by the idea that his fiancée had seen his best friend before they'd even been introduced. Now this kind of coincidence, while it's a type 2 coincidence, what I call type 2 coincidence, because it doesn't, what it does is it deepens in a relationship. It enhances the information contained in the relationship, but doesn't actually necessarily introduce new stuff. These type 2 coincidences, though, require a lot of pre-preparation. We all have to be prepared for the future coincidence, which means that there is a distinct connection between the internal states and the environment. And this is how evolution proceeds. Of course, the alleles develop internally and then they coincide with the changes in the environment and produce a positive result. So coincidence is absolutely crucial to progress of evolution, and the more coincidences we have, the faster evolution will occur, fewer the less. But you can imagine a case where, or a universe in which the property of coincidences was higher, evolution would be very quick, and things will develop. However, the point I want to make here is that space, you need space for coincidence, and I'll explain this in a moment. All right, and it's quite possible that the recent acceleration of the expansion of the universe is the result of the busy activity going on in the universe right now. As the universe is developing and creating, and entropy is increasing the number of states, even though lower energy, therefore the higher the number of states, the greater the likelihood of coincidences. All right. So why do we need space? Well, let's consider this. Imagine there are 6 tables in a circle, and there's someone throwing a single die at each table. They all throw them simultaneously. Now, the chances of there being a double are pretty high. At least they're 1/6, let's say. So, supposing these people then pick up their dice and throw them again, and suppose the same 2 tables were the original double, the same double occurs. Now, the chances of this happening are at least 1/36, and it's pretty rare. We would be surprised if this happened. Supposing they all pick up the dice, throw it again, and it's the same double on the same 2 tables occurs again. The chances of this are, what, 1 in 216, something like that. So, in order for this universe of tables to be probabilistically consistent over time, you need to grow the size. You need to put out more tables. It also tells us something about whether we are in a simulation or not. Certainly, it would suggest that there is a simulation going on because of the coordination between the internal states and the external environment. By the same token, the idea of coincidence sort of discounts Boltzmann brains, or the existence of Boltzmann's brains, because of this, because the sheer random departures from the thermodynamic equilibrium do not seem at the same time to provide this coordination between internal states of consciousness and the external reality and the external environment. So, does coincidence matter? Can we do anything about it if it does? Well, I think coincidence does matter because it's something to do with the way the universe is constructed. Coincidence is a benign property for us. If we didn't have coincidence, you can imagine a world without coincidence, and it would be a very unfriendly place. Nothing about our internal states could be connected with the external world. We live in our world. Coincidence means that we really belong here, that this is our place. And if we travel to other worlds where different levels of coincidence occur, it may well be that we would feel out of place, or unable to connect, or unable to do things properly. In this respect, robotic exploration of other worlds is probably better than human worlds, because they're probably less prone, although they are prone in some way, less prone to coincidences. And if we travel to other worlds, it may well be that our perceptions will fail in some important way, and we would be unable to sort of connect with that environment in an important way, to extract the right kinds of information from it. So I'm prepared to speculate that even when we do get to interstellar travel and we do pass to other worlds, if my ideas about coincidence are correct, we may have a lot more trouble than we would expect, trying to inhabit the different environments.